All right, there we go. Now we're live. We are live. Welcome to episode 10. BetParx presents Stick to Hockey Live. One of my favorite episodes of the year we're going to do today because we've got the goalie maestro. And he's got a great story because he lost a chiclet playing goalie. You usually see goalie got all their teeth, but Kevin Woodley's going to join us from In Goal Magazine and NHL.com in just a minute. And I can't wait to talk to him. There's a ton to talk about. I always find that when Kevin comes on, the episodes are very educational because the goaltender position is one that's often criticized, but not as nearly understood as a lot of other positions in sports. So we're going to talk to Woody in just a second. Let me tell you about the BetParx app. Great time. Good card tonight. Some good games to bet. We got a great boost for you, which I'll tell you about in a second. But get the BetParx app and get in on all the action. Same game parlays, live in-game betting, player performances on hoops, hockey, football, college, and pro, you name it. F1's going to be in Mexico this weekend. It's all there for you. Simple to use, simple to sign up, faster to win than ever before. And here's the hockey boost tonight. It's going to be, and we did this especially for Woody because he's coming on. It's a goalie boost. It's a combo goalie boost. We're going to go with the under tonight, 6.5 goals in the Rangers-Islanders game. I hope Shesterkin's playing. I doubt it because he played last night. But maybe Shesterkin, Sorokin. Under 6.5 goals. It was minus 148. We got it at minus 110. You got great value. And I tell you what, if you use the promo code BRICKWALL, all capital letters, BRICKWALL, one word, we'll boost it from minus 110 to plus 120. How about that? Right up to the puck drop. So again, get on the BetParx app and get in on the action in the boost. It's going to be fantastic. And you need to be over 21 and present in Pennsylvania. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. I'm going to tell you about Conquerville Subaru real quick as well. I've been with Conquerville since the 80s. Bought my first car there. I bought many since, and I'd go back because they do great work in the community and they actually do care. So stop by. They're a great dealership on Route 202 in Glen Mills. Beautiful inventory, all the work they do. They were the first Subaru Nation Love Promise Dealer of the award winner back in 2015. The work they do for 8 years plus at Nemours Children's Hospital of Delaware. The classrooms that they adopt at Marcus Hook Elementary School. And the continuation of donations of thousands of coats to La Humanidad Hispania in Kennett Square. They've done that for 10 years. They still continue to do it. So visit the showroom. It's not just the showroom. It's a service department, free car wash with every visit, and check out the certified pre-owned inventory and also pick from a list of incoming Subaru vehicles. So visit ConquervilleSubaru.com or visit the showroom on Route 202 in Glen Mills. And remember, Conquerville cares. Let's get to them right now from In Goal Magazine, NHL.com, and north of the border, out in British Columbia, Vancouver to be exact, it is Kevin Woodley. Woody, how are you?
I'm good. I hate to do this to you on your value bet there, but before you go under on Islanders Rangers, given the fact it's going to be Yaroslav Halak, you might want to have a look at Yaro's numbers against the Islanders since he left that team. I lived it here in Vancouver.
Yeah.
Firsthand last year, didn't even get out of the game. There is something. Sometimes a goalie leaves a team, and I don't know what happened there, but whenever he plays that team since leaving that team, it doesn't go well. So
the sample size has got to be small, though, no?
The sample size is small, but they're like I said, man, it's like they just have something to prove against him or something. They came out like they were like just hair on fire here in Vancouver. I don't think he even made it out of the game. So it's I can't have them off the top of my head because I didn't know where, I didn't have this ready to go, but I want to say the save percentage might be in the 700s head to head ever since he left that team. And obviously playing in Boston for a few years, they would have played not a huge sample size, but not nothing either. So keep an eye on that one.
He's 848 right now, while Matt Murray only played one game at 750 is the worst. Woody, you could get a 750. I could get a 750.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I mean,
we're old.
I don't know if I mean, I'm lucky to maintain in old man hockey. I'm lucky to maintain that. So I'm not going to pump my tires too good. I kind of suck. So those who can't teach, and those who can't do or teach, they talk about it. That's me.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what you do at In Goal. What's new at In Goal before we get into the specifics here today?
I mean, as usual, we kind of rolling with the formula we like, and that's just new content all the time that nobody else brings you. I'll be honest, for your listeners right now that aren't goaltenders, probably not much there for you. But if you are a goalie, will actually make you a better goalie. If you got a goalie kid, you got a goalie in the family, whether it's beer league, youth league, junior. We have NHL goalies that subscribe to us. We have a lot of NHL goalie coaches. We have over 200 professional goalie coaches that subscribe to our product to keep up with the latest trends in goaltending, instruction on the ice from NHL goalies and goalie coaches. Every week we do a pro reads where an NHL goalie does a video session with us and tries to explain his reads. In other words, like, the game's so dynamic. Why'd you choose this save? What are you looking for in a 2-on-1 handedness, things like that. Just really unique content you can't get anywhere else. And like I said, if you're not a goalie, probably not for you. But if you are a goalie, we've got everything.
Goalie heaven.
Yeah.
The one thing I will tell people, if you're hockey fans and if you're watching this, it's very likely you're a hockey fan. And if you don't understand the position, go on In Goal, watch pro reads, because it'll give you such a great understanding of the plight of the goaltender. All the things, the data points that he has to calculate in fluid motion and how he has to calculate them to come up with a save. It's not as simple as shoot puck, stop puck, put yourself between that and the net. And it'll give you a real understanding of all the considerations that go into a save. You know, is the guy on the other side of the ice that's a potential threat right-handed or left-handed? That's a simple one. There's way more complexity even than that. Where their weight is distributed on their skates.
I remember the first time, like, this is a project I had in mind for a number of years. And the first guy that we did it with, we spent a day with Carey Price up in Kelowna. It's about probably 4 years ago before we did the first one. And I'm like, hey, Pricer, like, I got this idea. Throw on a mic. I'm going to play some clips. I'm going to record you walking us through it. And I've covered the league now for 20 years. I'd like to think I've learned a lot about the position over the years. I was blown away at the details that he is picking out in real time and how he is managing where he is in the crease, what save selection he makes based on those details in real time, when to look off the puck, what you're looking for when you look off the puck, and how that affects how you move, where you go to. It really is incredible. It gives you a good sense. And the other one too, and this will play into our discussion on defensive environments. Man, as much as it's about what the offense is doing, as you said, what hand is he? How's he holding his stick? Is he holding it away? Is he holding the puck out in front of him? Is it shoot or deke or pass? All these incredible amounts of information that these guys process in real time. How the defense plays. It amazes me how many times the read is based on, I know my defenseman is going here. And so that means this is no longer the dangerous shot. So then I can not cheat, because nobody wants to cheat, but I can flatten out my back leg so that when I have to make that push, I'm getting early angle on it rather than wait, and start to move and maybe don't arrive set and square. Like, the little hedges that you have here and there so many times are based on knowing what your defensemen are going to do and being able to trust that they're going to do it.
Yeah, that's a big part of the environment, trusting it, and that it's certain things are covered so you can play the puck with more confidence, that you don't have to worry about something that you should not have to worry about. That was a big thing last year. Before we get to Carter Hart, because I see some of the advanced stats. I know you have ClearSight Analytics data. I want to see where that kind of goes too, but he's at the top of goals saved above. But where I want to start is here. I mentioned him already, Shesterkin. Has he supplanted Vasilevsky as the best goalie in the world? Because I say no, Kev, because I think 8 of the last 10 closeout games that Vasilevsky has played in are shutouts. And to me, that's the ultimate money spot for a goalie. He's not only a great regular season goalie, he's a great money goalie. To me, he's going to the Hall of Fame already. He's not even 30.
Yeah, and I think so. Igor was incredible last year, and there are things Igor does. One of the stories I wrote about it, the goalie coach here, Ian Clark, who has spent some time in Russia and knows a number of the top Russian goaltenders. The word he used was hovercraft. Like, Igor is like a hovercraft on the ice. And there are things he does that nobody else is doing, at least to the degree he does it, in terms of the way he uses his edges and the way he moves around the ice, the way he builds early angle into movements using a leading edge from the knees. Like, he moves as, like, it's funny because Igor's patience on his skates and his mobility on his skates is a massive asset and a big part of what he does. But his ability to move once he's on his knees is almost as good as when he's up on his skates. And that's the part that he does at a level nobody else is doing. The difference to me is some of what Igor is doing appears to be somewhat teachable. And I'm not saying it's easy, but I mean, there are things he's doing that you could see the next wave doing. A lot of what Vasi does is just like off the charts, freak athleticism and skill. Like his ability to generate power from end range of movement. So when you're fully extended, to still get a loaded push and still build coverage, not sprawl out, get extended, fall forward, is just like nothing we've ever seen before. And I know some coaches that used to come to Canada, to Ottawa, actually, to work with some coaches in the summer as a teenager. His agent brought him over, and they used to measure sort of his ability to generate power from those end ranges. Like we can all load up a push edge and make a good push, but Vasi can be extended and still generate power. And so that's one of his separating factors. I'm with you. Like, I think if you look at last year, Igor's the best goalie in the league, worthy of the Vezina, and he's in the conversation as the best goalie in the world. That's how good his skill set is. But Vasi's ability to do it year in, year out, and the durability and the number of games played, to me, the mantle still belongs to him because, like Igor's still in that it's 1 year, right?
Yeah.
Like until you do it, you haven't done it. And Vasi's ability to do it year after year after year. Do we see things in Igor that we expect to continue? Absolutely. But I'm just not quite ready to hand that over. And hey, listen, at Ingle, we were one of the first ones to hand it to Vasi when people were still, talking about the guy over my shoulder, Carey Price. Like as much as Price was a human how to goalie DVD, there were things Vasi was doing maybe before that mantle got handed over that we saw that we're talking about, like Vasi's the best, like Carey's one of the best of all time, and Vasi's now moved into that range. I'm with you on that. Hall of Famer already.
Yeah, I mean, just the results are mind-boggling, and he does play a huge workload too. He plays a lot of games. Like if you can handle not playing much as a backup, and Brian Elliott is damn near our age, if you can handle that, then hey, you're not going to wear and tear. You're going to make good money, and you sit on the bench and, you work hard in practice and be ready to go if anything happens, but he doesn't pull up lame. He doesn't want to come out of games. Were you surprised last year he didn't want to come out of the one game?
Yeah, maybe a little bit, but and you wonder if there's any benefits of sticking in. But then again, like if it's another goalie, you're asked that question. But this is a guy who, like, he hasn't come out of any games. He played, like how many guys in the bubble the year they won? Like who played every game? Like nobody. Yeah. And that's how he is. That's how
some are going 3 deep, Woody.
Yeah, I mean, hey, we saw 119 goaltenders in the National Hockey League last year, a record by like a moonshot. Like 119, I think the previous high was like 98, and that was also pandemic related. Vasi just keeps going. A high workload in the season, plays every minute in the playoffs. And that's, like I said, to me, that's why he's still at the top of that conversation.
With Price being essentially done at this point, what's his legacy? Some people will say he's not even the greatest goalie of his generation. I saw that argument on social media. I say bullshit. I mean,
they're over my shoulder right now. If this is everyone can see the video, it's not just audio. I got Price over one and Lundqvist over the other. Like, to me, that's the argument of that generation.
Yeah.
In his best years, there was nobody that could touch him. And I think that, you can argue stats and where he belongs all time, and injuries are obviously going to play a role in limiting how far he can climb on the all-time list. But I'm telling you, nobody moved the needle in the goaltending world like Carey Price. Nobody inspired the next generation of goaltenders like Carey Price. Nobody was looked up to as a model for how to play the game the new way. And when we talk about things like efficiency, like Carey Price. CCM built an entire line of equipment and brand around Carey Price, the E-Flex line. You talk to Carter. Actually, I'm supposed to later today about what he meant. Not just Canadian goalies either, right? Though, like you heard Jake Ottinger talk the other day about when he was at going to university in Boston, and he would go to Bruins games. Who do you want to go see? Vasilevsky and Price, right? Like, so there's like one of the great next stars for American goaltending, and he wanted to watch Carey. I said earlier, I guess DVDs aren't relevant anymore, so I'm dating myself, but he was a human how-to goalie DVD. Like, you watched him and you modeled yourself after him. The poise, the calmness, the patience, the efficiency. Like, Carey was just, his best was untouchable. We saw it in the year where he won the Hart as well as the Vezina, and it just like nobody even came close to moving the needle. Like, Lundqvist was iconic.
Yeah.
But from an equipment standpoint, from if Carey, we used to do a day with Price in the summers every summer. Carey switched from a 600 break to a 590 break, which is just a very subtle difference in the way the glove closes around the hand. And I mean, if you're not a goalie, you wouldn't spot it. Because it's Carey, literally we posted a video of 30 seconds of him just skating around the ice at the beginning, and our comments lit up. Oh my God, has he changed to a 590 glove? Like, people paid attention to every little detail that he did. Like I said, move the needle in the goaltending world. Frankly, like no one I've ever seen in my 20 years covering the position. He was it when it came to the goalie union.
You mentioned his poise and his calmness. Like, it never looked like his heart rate was elevated. Like, he was just relaxed to play his style and move so efficiently. And I will say this, that I had a chance to meet him a couple times off the ice after games. He was as chill and good of a dude as you'll find. I mean, not weird, but just a good guy.
Yeah, and we've been blessed too. The day with Price that we used to do with Eli Wilson goalie camps, one day every summer, and it was all kids, right? So he spent the day with them. It wasn't just went out on the ice for one session.
Dressed in the room with them, everything.
Tying up kids' skates. Carey, can you help me with my skates? Yeah. How do you do your toe ties? Oh, here's how you did a little demonstration. They all tried it. How do you break in your glove? Can you help me with my knee pads? Like, how should I be wearing my knee pads? He'd be in there tying skates, talking to the kids, and this was before he had kids. And his dad, Jerry, would be there. And I remember thinking, like, this guy's going to be like the best dad in the world because he didn't even have kids yet. And you already sort of understood. It wasn't just one ice session. It was 2 ice sessions, an off ice session, showed them how to do dynamic warm up. Like, he really spent the day. And we talk about good person. At the beginning of the day, there was a breakfast and the kids would all be in the room and the parents would come in and they'd be in the back of the room, right? And so the kids would go down to the change room and start to get their gear together. And Carey would go to the parents and introduce himself. Just like, hey, I'm Carey Price. Thank you so much for being a part of this day. Because it raised some funds for some good causes as well. And just it comes from his dad. It comes from his parents, his mom, his dad. They're humble people. They work incredibly hard. And Carey sort of has brought all those, he brought all of that onto the ice. Not just when he was wearing a Montreal Canadiens uniform, but in everything he did around the game. And so he'll be missed. It's, I hope, I know it's a long shot and he talked about it, like hoping for a medical miracle, but man, if the goalie union could just have one, let's give it to Carey Price. Cause again, over my shoulder, I'm losing all my icons here. Luongo, Lundqvist, Price. And this is actually, I wrote a column for NHL.com. Think about the names that we've lost in the last 3 years when it comes to goaltending. Even those are the, Mount Rushmore of the past generation, maybe. But, beyond that, Dubnyk, he was leading the league in games played just 4 or 5 years ago. Jimmy Howard was the number one for how many years in Detroit? Corey Crawford. I have a dozen NHL goalies who are were workhorse confirmed. You could lock them in for 60 to 65 for a team number one goalies forever. And they've all just kind of left the game in the last 2 or 3 years. That's a massive hole. Guys like Ryan Miller, they weren't just great goalies for a long time. They took up number one minutes for more than a third of the league for an entire decade. And now you've got to replace those. And there's a whole list of bright young stars coming behind them, but it's really interesting to think that opportunity that they've opened up in the last 3 years. I can't remember a period of time where in that short order, we've had that many prominent names, prominent minute munching number ones leave the game. And so there's a lot of guys that need to fill those minutes. It's not easy. And I think that's part of why we're seeing the 1A, 1B. The gap between starter and backup is closed for sure. That's part of it.
And schedule, you need it.
Yeah. But when you lose guys like that many, like I said, there's opportunities that, I talked to Spencer Knight about this the other day and Jeremy Swayman. Those opportunities just didn't exist because guys like Tuukka Rask, they were there. You penciled them in. There was no chance to go into a Boston Bruins and get games played because Tuukka was there and he was going to play his games. And so it really fascinating to see sort of how this starts to evolve with these young guys coming in and taking up some of those minutes and how they handle it because it's an adjustment.
Yeah, there's 3 guys that are probably really close to the end too, and Quick, Fleury, and Craig Anderson too. I mean,
Andy was here last week. He's never done one more year every year.
Yeah, well, he only played 2 games, but Jesus, he's performed well. since we talked about Carey, let's talk about Carter, because we see the similarities in the way they approach the game, the way they read the game, movements to an extent. Although Carter, there certainly is differences as well. But Carter this season, Woody, has gotten off to just an unbelievable start, and it's odd because he didn't play any preseason games. And matter of fact, he missed most of the preseason scrimmages as well because he got run into. Did a lot of work with Kim Dillabaugh on the technical elements, came in really good shape, had a really good summer of training. But he hits the ground running here from game one and has been just simply unbelievable.
Yeah, and the adjusted numbers, I heard you mention it earlier, because let's be honest, in small samples, sometimes it can be goaltending never exists in a vacuum. My one caveat all the time, it's a function of team play. And in small samples, sometimes, like, there are guys in the league. I was on Edmonton radio the other day, and somebody asked me about Tristan Jarry's off the charts numbers. I'm like, yeah, like, he's been great. Like, he's played above expected, but he's also played in, at that point, the most friendly goalie environment we'd seen. Well, what happens last night? The Oilers are a very not friendly goalie opponent, and they hang 5 or 6 on him. So the thing about Carter is his environment, his expected save percentage, like, it's not inflated. This is him. Like, he's 4% above expected. He's one of the top goalies in the league relative to environment. Again, tiny sample size, but he's like top 5 in that regard. You mentioned Craig Anderson. He's up there. Jordan Binnington, Charlie Lindgren in just a couple of games. And Carter's, again, like, his environment's a little under 900, and he's outperforming it by a significant mark. So this is not a goalie who is being carried by his team. This is a goalie who's outperforming that environment. Now, I'm going to lean on you a little bit. The environment from a statistical standpoint appears to be better than last year, but by an expected save percentage, not significantly so. And that's the thing, that we can have all the analytics in the world, that measure the quality of shots. But what we can't really know is the environment predictable? And Hey, listen, every goalie will tell you the game's so dynamic. There's no such thing as a truly predictable environment. But going back to the pro reads, are the things that everybody is supposed to do being done to the point where the goalie can start to eliminate some of those options in front of them and maybe just lock in on 1 or 2 and not have to worry about all 5? And so that doesn't get measured in analytics. Like, we measure how many chances they give up. We measure the quality of them. But what we rarely are able to do is tell you whether they're the ones that the goalie's expecting, whether they fit with how that system is supposed to be played. And so you've seen him more than me, but in terms of the shot quality and stuff, like, it's not a significant change. He's just outplaying it by a significant margin,
which he did a couple years ago, but did not last year. I think the environment has been better and certainly more predictable, especially backdoor. That was something last year that was a major problem, under AV and then Mike Yeo. We were texting about this, playing that man-to-man style. It can get flooded where the puck is sometimes. And, you get caught in spots, and backdoor was always a problem. And he started to lean because he just kept getting touched there. And when you lean, you die. The shooters are too good. There's no forgiveness in the NHL to be able to get away with that. But the thing that I've noticed with him this year, I think it was last year where he was experimented with taking a little more ice. He seems back at his regular depth, Woody, and just his play reading looks really sharp, which is why I was surprised, because he didn't play preseason. That's usually something you have to dial in a little bit. But is there some kind of magic formula or something that you see with consistency on what some goalies that start well and some that struggle?
No, if I had a magic formula, Jason, I would have sold it and be retired in Maui
Elixir.
right now surfing. Yeah. With all due respect, if I had a magic formula, we wouldn't be talking. I would have cashed that baby out in the goaltending world because everybody's looking for it. No, especially when it comes to starts, like we talked about Luongo, right? Like, Lou used to just absolutely hate the month of October, and it almost became a self-fulfilling prophecy for him. Didn't matter what he did, he struggled in October. And it was like the calendar flipped to November. It's like he just needed to get past Halloween or something. And all of a sudden he was a Hall of Famer, right? Like literally a Hall of Famer. I actually, if you take away his Octobers, I wonder how good his numbers would be significantly better because October was terrible for him. So some guys, but Lou was a very much as we talked about technique with him, very much a read-based goalie. It's why he didn't fit when Torts was here for the 1 year, because they, and I think Torts is adapted too. I don't think he's a pure just collapse like he was with the Rangers, where everybody sort of just falls back in front of the net. I don't think that's how they play anymore for him, but it was how they played here. And Lou was a guy who needed to see and read plays, and he couldn't because everyone was in front of him. And he liked to play. His ability to read the game, despite not being like size 13 skates, and sometimes turning those things could be like turning a freight, like a big freighter out on the ocean. Like it didn't happen fast. Agility was not, the backbone of a Hall of Fame career for him. So all of a sudden you had all this crowd in front of the net, goalie that relies on reads to sort of to beat plays and be at the top of his crease, is starting to hedge a little bit. Or when he doesn't hedge, he can't see the play. It's hitting all those bodies. It's bouncing. And now lateral recovery speed wasn't his strength, and he doesn't get to feel the puck. Like, rebounds are one thing. If it hits us, we know we should have a feel. Even if we don't see it, we should at least be able to feel it and have an idea where it's going. Broken plays, the ones that it hits a body in front, chances are you didn't see it. You didn't feel it. You don't know where it's going. And for Lou, like, he's out at the top of his crease. He's not getting his reads, and that puck's going everywhere. It's like Marty Brodeur used to call them grenades, right? Like, again, guys that read the game, I think sometimes maybe do struggle a little bit. And so in October, I've always leaned, like, it's not an absolute, but a slight rule of thumb. Like, guys who are a little more technical in their foundation, every goalie relies on reads, but to varying degrees. And to me, guys that are maybe a little more conservative, a little more foundational, technical foundation, probably have a better chance of getting off to a good start than guys who move a lot more and rely on reads a little bit more, in terms of, like, everybody needs to feel good about their ability to process the game, but some guys lean heavily on it, and other guys, it's an added layer to, a foundation that's based more on where they are in the crease, and they're not going to change that. So if Carter's backed it up a little bit, that probably makes it a little bit easier to trust those reads. Sometimes it's just a reset, right? You got a new coach, got a hell of a coach in Bradshaw on the assistant side, in terms of helping, run and get the most out of the defense that I think a lot of people had question marks about. We saw him do it here in Vancouver. They gave up a ton, but, in some, like, with great goaltending from Demko, they survived it. And I think that was, a large influence of Bradshaw, sort of, like, listen, we don't have a great defense, but here's what we're going to give up. Here's what we're not willing to give up. And so, maybe it's just a chance to reset. And hey, I'm going to come in here, and I'm not going to worry about the 9 backdoors that got through last year. I'm not going to cheat off that post. I know how the system is supposed to be. I'm going to trust the guys to play it. I'm going to play my position the way it is. And sometimes the start of a season, when you're trying to make a reset like that, it's easier said than done, but you can erase all that baggage of, oh crap, I don't know if I can trust this guy to take away that back there. I better start, as you said, leaning or cheating. And it used to be the Oilers. They were so terrible defensively. They kept spitting out goalies, and they were always my go-to example. Like, do you think it's a goalie, or do you think it's the fact that the goalie can't trust the system? If the first 10 that aren't supposed to get through, chances are you're leaning on the next one. And if you lean in this league or cheat, you're dead. So that there's probably a little bit of that. You know what I've noticed? And again, I haven't watched as much as you. I watched the Canucks game, obviously. I've gone through some of some saves and some particulars here on ClearSight. Carter's so good technically. Like, his ability to get rotation and move and sort of build coverage ground up and recover, and his ability to move and skate is so good. Like, that was the foundation for him. I've seen more, for lack of a better term, I almost want to call them ugly saves.
Yeah.
But just the game's too dynamic to always be perfect. And he's damn near perfect technically when he's at his best.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen him just throw that technique out the window at times. And I think against the Canucks there, it was Kuzmenko on the back door. And, like, rather than try and get perfect rotation, build blocker over pad and get a good push, like, he just stuck the leg out. And sometimes to get extra leverage and stick that leg out further, we need to pitch forward, right? Like, if you're in a butterfly and you need to extend the leg, if you allow your torso to pitch forward, you can, like, get that much more extension out of your leg. And he was willing to do that. He was willing to throw technique out the window, and ended up making I think Kuzmenko got a couple whacks at it, like maybe 2-3 really difficult scramble saves that, if you're a technician, you look at it and you go, ooh, like, he's doing snow angels out there. But man, he's just doing what it takes. And so
competing.
Yeah. And Carter always had that in junior, as much as he was, and myself included, looked at him as this, like, Carey-like technical model for how to move and how to track and how to have that patience. He used to, like, he battled too. Like, he competed on pucks, and I'm not saying he wasn't competing in Philly, but just in that game, it jumped out at me that you don't want to abandon your technique too often too soon. But it looked like there was more of a willingness in some of those crazy scramble situations to just, man, whatever I got to do to get something on the puck. And right now it's working. So I don't know if that's something you've seen as well, but like I said, tiny sample, and I haven't even watched all of it, but it jumped out at me a little bit.
Yeah, against the Lightning, it was actually a goal that ended up scoring. You got a good piece of it, though, on Stamkos's second goal and a one-timer on an east-west play. There was two options. It was kind of an east-west from down below the bottom of the circle. There was an option on his near side, about the top of the circle on his glove hand side, and then there was the option across, which was Stamkos, which they went with. And because he had to consider that other option, he couldn't be loaded for a good push and have this great technical movement. So he just threw himself. And the guy that I do intermissions with, Brian Smith, said, "Tell me, like, that looked weird." And it was because he didn't have pad turn and grab an edge. It was just literally throwing his body across the crease, which is something that he would not do before. It wasn't that there wasn't a willingness, but it's part of as you develop as a goaltender. Let me ask you about, because playing for Torts,
let me just go back a little bit, because I think it's important. Like it's a fine line there, right? Like, and one of the things that I didn't love early in Philly was that I felt like they almost wanted him to do more of that in situations where, I mean, who the hell am I? But like on plays where I know he can beat it set and square, he was going into this spread. And so it's a matter of finding that line. And like anything in goaltending, it's a balance. And so it just looks like he has a better balance. Like he's still, like, I don't see him dialing up goalie 911 when he doesn't need to, but it's when everything breaks down and sometimes you just got to like open the car doors and go, there's that willingness. Yep. You start opening the car doors and dialing goalie 911 early in sequences, or when the play's higher in the zone, or on every odd man rush. And eventually that probably catches up to you. It's a matter of finding, you can't completely throw that foundation out the door. But it looks like there's a better balance there, at least, like I said, early going. And man, confidence can do a lot of things, and hope he keeps building on it.
One of the things, Woody, with John Tortorella teams, you saw it firsthand out there in Vancouver. We've seen it over the tenure at a lot of different places. I'm not sure if it was a big mantra of his back in the Tampa Bay Lightning days, but certainly was with the Rangers, certainly was probably the 1 year in Vancouver, and was in Columbus as well, was he asked his guys, defenders, and that's all 5 skaters, to block shots. And that is a tricky thing for a goaltender, because as a goalie, you love to see the release, especially on a shot with any kind of distance. And if guys are getting in front of it, there's a lot of variables that can happen. Carter's handled it well so far. There's been a decent amount. I mean, Provorov blocked 10 shots in the first game against the Devils. But there's an art and an approach to dealing with that. What does the goalie got to consider when guys are willing to put that stick on a puck or try and get their shin pads in front of it?
I think at the end of the day, you just got to trust that it's going to do more harm than good. I will say that over time, there are ones that there are shots from certain distances that you almost just want to like let your goalie take it. Like
say, just give it to me. Just get out of the way.
Yeah. And it is a real fine line. But that's just what Torts asks of them. And I think there's a difference. Like, you tell me, again, I haven't had a chance to really break down and look at the systems, but certainly here in Vancouver, there was more of a collapsing when they did it. And now it's more of like, it's a mantra as an individual, but you're not just clogging 5 guys and creating like layered screens all the time, right?
Yeah,
like
that's hell.
Yeah, like you can front the puck and get in front of a net front guy and block a shot, as opposed to standing beside him and creating like multiple lanes of traffic for your goaltender. So like shot blocking doesn't have to be a bad thing for a goalie. Like it can bail you out a bunch of times when you don't get across on that Stamkos one time, or if a guy's actually got a leg out there and he gets a piece of it. So no goalie's going to say I don't want it, but certainly there are shots and it can help you feel good. Like some of those Carolina did this a lot. Like they blocked everything. Like they used to block like even the outside point shots. And as a goalie, like it's like, nah, that's when I stopped. Like I always call them the 99%er. So it's probably closer to 100. Like I'm stopping that, like maybe not 99 out of 100. It's more like 399 out of 400. Yeah. And I get to feel the puck and I feel the game and I feel good. And hey, I pad my stats a little bit too. Like there are some shots that just get the hell out of my way. You don't want guys reaching sticks in lanes on odd man rushes on plays where from a certain distance you've got that, and all of a sudden it changes. So there's risk on both sides of it. But as a goalie, like I don't know, you can do anything differently. You just have to. This is the one part of Carter's game that I think will allow him to survive it if it flips the other way and becomes problematic from a goalie perspective, and that's. You just have to stay on the release as long as you can and stay on the puck. And Carter's tracking and the way he does it and the way he moves is one of his strengths. And so, he's not as much as from certain ranges, you have to react. Like we talk about all the information these guys gather, right? Like there are certain areas of the ice where if you wait till that puck's off the blade, you're probably moving too late from a reaction standpoint. All kinds of science on how long that takes to go in the net and how fast the human eye and brain can interact and create that motion. A lot of it is learned. Like I know where his hands are, I know where his head are, I know where this puck is going before it's off his blade based on all this information and these tens of thousands of shots I've taken. It's why goalies hate it when a guy misses and scores. There's nothing worse. He's riding the stick celebrating because it went between your 5-hole and damn well he was shooting high glove and he just missed, and because you were reading. Yeah, exactly. We hate it, but it happens.
Yep. That's why I hated playing C League, Beer League.
Yeah,
some donkey coming down, some bender come in and like he's showing me high blocker the whole way down,
and he whips,
and then he slides it 5-hole because he misses the puck. I look like a dick.
It's one of the reasons almost no NHL goalies ever play the position again once they're done. They all become defensemen and forwards if they play at all. But my point being more, there are areas on the ice where you have to react, but there are other areas where, like, regardless, Carter stays on releases visually and biomechanically better than a lot of goalies. So he truly sees he's not yes, sometimes you have to react early, but he has sort of true vision on the puck longer in its trajectory towards him than a lot of goalies. And so that should serve him well. If they're hitting legs, if they're hitting bodies, if they're moving around. Like, again, it's a tough one, right? Like how many times does it hit and help you? How many times does it hit and hurt you? You hope your team stays on the right side of that formula. But as a goalie, all you can do is try and stay on that puck and be as patient as you can, as long as you can. And then recognize, like,
is he inside or is he outside?
Oh yeah, I mean, picking lanes and screens, and like there's a system there, right? Like it's not random. Yeah, I mean, goalies tend to lean on the short side because there's more crap in the middle. That if they don't see a puck, if the shot goes to the middle and they're looking around a screen on the short side, chances are it's going to hit a body first of all, or there's better chances on the middle than it is on the short side. But also, like draw a simple line from the faceoff dot,
shorter distance.
Yeah, the puck will get in on the short side faster than it can get in on the far side. So you have more time to react and move around behind a screen into a shot if you read it that way. Priority is always vision. But to me, again, that's systems, right? Like if anybody thinks the NHL goalies and players go out there and just be like, get in front of everything. I remember having this conversation with Lehner about what made it so easy with the Islanders. Like they knew it, like didn't just know what lane the players were supposed to be in. The players got in the right lane. We see it here in Vancouver. The penalty kill is atrocious. And it's not just a seam pass, it's the screenshots. And people will be like, oh, well, like he should be able to manage a screen. I'm like, yeah, he is managing a screen and he's managing it right. But the defenseman's in the wrong lane, like consistently in the wrong lane. And so that to me is one of those parts of systems and trusting systems that gets overlooked. Like, hey, what lanes are we supposed to be in? And you and I probably don't know, but are they in them, right? Like, are they in the lanes they're supposed to be in? Are they? And then is the goalie doing what he's supposed to do? And that's filling the other lane or looking through, using the other lane to get sight on the puck. And so all those things come together. It's why goaltending and hockey is so hard to track, because even if we track quality of scoring chances, what we don't know is whether that was within what the system should give up or not.
Yeah, we don't know if that was the play call, to use a football reference. You go, well, they blew that coverage. So-and-so blew it. Well, you don't know. Maybe he was supposed to blitz.
Like who got the read wrong? The quarterback? Did the quarterback get the read wrong and the receiver went to the right spot? Or did the receiver cut the route off because he read it wrong? Who's right, who's wrong? We don't know.
Yep.
Like every 2 seconds, there's one of those decisions on the ice when the play's in your end as a goalie and as a team defending.
Yeah, no doubt. He's been in the league now, Carter, for 5 years. and his game has evolved. But let me ask you this, because you're out there in Vancouver living it right now again with your Demko, goalie with an incredibly high ceiling that's getting touched up. Got touched up pretty good last year. Had a good year, though, by all standards. Carter was
Top,
really touched up.
top 5 adjusted last year. His
Yeah.
adjusted numbers had him top. Like the raw stuff didn't even have him in the Vezina conversation. The adjusted stuff should have.
Yep. And you look at it, and Carter's raw numbers adjusted last year, the last 2 years were pretty rough. How did he overcome that? And because a lot of times they say, well, don't bring a goalie up because you're going to damage him. Now, he's not super young anymore, but he played a lot of hockey at a very young age before a lot of guys even get to the league. And he seems to come back and have this ability to compartmentalize it, park it, whatever he needs to do, and come back and battle, on a new day like he's kind of doing this year.
Yeah. I mean, actually wish I could have a conversation with him, and sort of walk through that process with him. I was actually hoping to have gotten to Edmonton and watch him on the ice a little bit this summer, but some other things got in the way. So I don't want to speak out of turn, but you can't really see what's between a guy's ears, right? Like we can watch technique, we can analyze that, but what you look for is signposts along the way in terms of mental strength. And, clearly he was tested a lot, like the pandemic, which I know he's talked about, and just what that did to a young guy without having any resources or outlets, being sort of trapped in your apartment. I know what that was like here, because I talked to guys like, there were goalies here that went through the same thing. It's not easy. The thing is, like, at the end of the day, goaltending, we hear it all the time. It's like goaltending and golf. Next shot mentality. Like, you have to have a next shot mentality. And it is the easiest thing to do. And the hardest thing, or the easiest thing to say, and the hardest thing to do. Yeah, it's so like every goalie can say it, every goalie does say it. But what tools do you have to make sure you can live it, to make sure you can do it? And I think when it comes to tools mentally, I mean, we know the work that, I actually don't even know, to be honest, if they still work together. I actually don't think they do. But like, he had a lot of tools at a young age. He's worked with John Stevenson. I know he's worked with the Flyer staff there. Like, he knows how to get to what he needs to do. Sometimes that changes as you become a pro. I've talked to a lot of guys. Like Carter had a lot of different things he used to do. Like he was on, self body scans, like the cold shower routine. Like Carter, no stone unturned, right? Like he would leave no stone unturned to try and get to optimize performance. And some guys, as they get into the league for a little while, realize that, like, man, like that's a lot. And they start to back off and they start to figure out what they really need. And I haven't had a chance to have that conversation to see if he's dialed back some of that stuff. But I know here in Vancouver, Demko did as a young pro, like, hey, maybe I don't need to do all these things. Maybe that's taxing me mentally. Maybe it's, some guys, they add so many pieces to a pregame routine that after a couple of years, they need like 3 hours to do it. And they're exhausted before the puck drops. And it's the Chris Osgood lesson. What'd you learn from Dom Hasek? He's like, I learned to let go. Like Dom didn't dial in till like he could look like he didn't even care about anything. And all of a sudden the puck drops and boom, he was focused. So, there's probably been some lessons there along the way. Again, I don't want to speak out of turn having not asked him what some of those are, but I just think you've got a goalie in Carter who's just, he's been exposed to all those tools because he sought them out. And with time, my guess is he's probably figured out which ones he really needs, which ones he doesn't. But having access to them is a hell of a lot better than not knowing what to do. Yeah. And maybe having to weed a few out is a hell of a lot better than not having something you can go to get back to your foundation. I just think whether it's the technical foundation or the ability to manage moments, like he has all the tools. It's just a matter of, with time and experience in the league, picking out which ones are going to help you in which situations and employing them. It just sometimes it takes time.
All that rigidity can, if one thing is knocked off kilter in your routine, it can tailspin you. You can worry about it, and then sometimes you have to knock off some of those things and simplify it. When you look at him, Kev, you see his game, his technical abilities, his professionalism, his compete level. You know him as well as I do.
Yeah, I'm a huge Carter.
Yeah.
I'm a goalie analyst, quote unquote. I guess some people call me. I'm a huge Carter Hart fan. Like I love the way he goes about his business and
carries himself, right?
Yeah, just everything. I mean, I love his game. I love lots of elements, and so yeah, like there's the caveat, right? I am a fan of Carter Hart.
So provided all of that, and provided that he's got a team with good structure in front of him, how great can he be? Can he be, top 5 in the league? Does he have that ceiling
I mean,
to you?
I've always seen
It's
those
hard to say.
tools. Yeah, I've always seen those tools, but I almost feel like I almost don't want to say anything. You know what I mean? Like I feel like it's a great start. Like there's going to have to be building blocks.
Mm-hmm.
You don't become a top 5 goalie in the league
It's an evolution
without a top 10 defense. Like there aren't many guys that get to have top 5 seasons without top 10 defenses. And that's why and even when they do, like we talked about Demko, like Demko was playing behind a bottom 5, bottom 6 defense here in Vancouver in terms of the environment, and the adjusted numbers were top 5. But like if I say he's top 5 to most people, well, and especially right now the way things are going for this team and him,
they don't see it
last season. They just don't see it that way, including those who vote on the Vezina. You talk to goalie people and they see it. You talk to Roberto Luongo and he'll put him in that conversation. So that's, it's tough. Like, and I don't know that environment's going to be there for him this year.
Yeah.
And I think it's, it has been more of a process. He had so much early success that, even myself, I got carried away. I'm like, he's going to be the one that breaks the mold. And in some ways he has. Like, I don't know that Spencer Knight's in the National Hockey League in his 3rd season as a 21. Like he's in his 30s. I guess 2nd full season, but 3 years of time in the league as a 21-year-old. Like Carter opened that door with his early success for other guys. And maybe, I remember writing that story, like this is the change. We don't have to wait till they're 25, 26. And maybe that heaps too much pressure on them. And obviously there were steps back. Like it's never going to be a complete, even Vasilevsky, he's had this great career. And right from the get-go, you knew how good he was, but are we talking about him as a Hall of Famer if he's playing in Columbus behind that team instead of behind Tampa? I'm not sure. So everything has to come together. And for all the reasons that, I just said about sort of calling that shot prematurely, myself included, and not seeing that, there might be some bumps in the road along the way, I'm hesitant to just be like, he's going to be a top 5 goalie. At the end of the day, seen it since junior. He absolutely has that capability.
Yeah.
But if I could tell you exactly how this path goes, again, I'd have a much higher paying job.
Yeah, he's certainly got the pedigree and, those intangibles as well. Like you see Fleury and people go, well, he went right to the NHL. No, he played like 89 games in the AHL.
I covered him in his rookie year, and he got touched up. Like that was a bad team. I remember him when he actually, one of his last games before he went to World Juniors, because remember they had him in the NHL for half a season, then sent him to World Juniors, was actually here in Vancouver. And I think Marcus Naslund touched him up for 4 that night, and he was headed to World Juniors. I'm like, well, don't worry. He also holds the goal scoring record for World Juniors at the time. I think Nazzy did. And it's not an easy league to learn in. And like I said, I was like, he's ready. I think he thought he was ready. I think he was ready. But there's, you put him in a tougher environment. There's going to be adjustments that have to be made. I don't know how many people were thriving, frankly, behind that defensive environment. Yeah. And people were a little quick, myself included, to maybe jump to conclusions that he was, bang, right out of the gate, straight to superstardom. But I also,
it's not a straight line. It never is.
No. And like I said, the ones that it has been a straight line for, in a lot of cases, they were on good teams as well. It's not just because, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying Andrei Vasilevsky got to where he is just because the Tampa Bay Lightning are a good team, but it sure as hell doesn't hurt that he came into the NHL behind a good team. He
arced with the team too.
Exactly.
They went from Bishop to him, and when he first came in, he was raw. He had a lot to learn.
And here's another one, and this is one I'm looking at trying to write for NHL.com in the coming months. The importance of mentorship.
Yeah.
How many at a time when we lose all these guys that have been greats for so long. I've had a couple of goalie coaches talk to me, like they've had young, really good prospects come through, but they worry about not having that mentor in front of them, right? And so, Eric Commer's been around for a long time, but he's benefiting from Craig Anderson. He's getting his first taste of the NHL now as a full timer, maybe a chance to be a number one, and Andy's there to help. I know they worried about that with Stuart Skinner in Edmonton, right? As he was coming up, do you have that mentor to work with to show you the ropes to figure things out? And that's the one thing that I will
off
say.
The ice.
Yes, and I'm not sure, and like like Brian Elliott's a great person and probably can teach a lot of things, but that number one job, like having a guy who's been there, done that at that level, sustained over time. And you look at Corey Schneider following Roberto Luongo, and obviously not every franchise has the ability to offer that. But I do wonder how much it hurt sort of not having that type of guy. I mean, Vasilevsky had Bishop, right?
Yep.
Like he had that guy there with him. Shesterkin had Lundqvist.
Yeah.
Right. Like don't, and they will tell you, those goalies will tell you. And Jake Ottinger had Ben Bishop, right?
Yep.
Like these goalies will tell you.
And also had Doobie.
Yeah. And these goalies will tell you how important those types of voices can be to figuring things out early on. And I'm not sure he had that, in those early years.
Yeah, totally agree. Woody, this was awesome. Everybody needs to check out, is it ingoal.com?
Ingoalmag.com.
Ingoalmag.com.
Just Google InGoal Magazine or search that up anywhere on the social medias and you'll find us. Like I said, if you're not a goalie, probably not for you. If you are a goalie, we'll make you a better goalie, and we will share with you tips, drills, insights from NHL goalies and goalie coaches that, quite frankly, just don't exist anywhere else. There's nobody in the world that does what we do. It is a niche, but it's one that I think we serve, frankly, as well as anyone ever has. So, and it's cheap. It's like $50 a year to be a premium member, Canadian, which is like, I don't know, that might be 2 cups of coffee in the US.
Yeah.
Practically giving it away, Jason. Practically
$7.95 in the US. Yeah, check it out. It's fantastic content.
Please check it out, because I gotta pay for the new tooth.
Yeah, you got the tooth knocked out with a puck. That's great.
So much for wearing a mask.
Yeah, that's even more impressive. Well, that's what happens when you taking clappers from guys that played in the show. Woody, thanks for doing this so much, man. Be well out there. Try not to let what's going on with the Canucks drag you down, man. Appreciate it.
I can't stay this bad forever, I hope.
Thanks, all right, man. Be good. Thanks.
You too.
There he is, Kevin Woodley, joining us on episode 10 of BetParx Presents Stick to Hockey Live. So much great information there. I love talking goaltending with him. We've had some long nights of texting. He's awesome, and I appreciate the time. Let me tell you about the BetParx app. It's the casino and sportsbook app. It's fantastic. Get it, download it, and take advantage of our boost for tonight. Going with the under 6.5 goals. It was minus 148 to 110, but as a special on BetParx, use the promo code BRICKWALL, one word, all caps, BRICKWALL, and that'll boost it from minus 110 to plus 120 for the under 6.5 goals on the Rangers-Islanders game tonight. And you can bet same-game parlays, live in-game betting, all there, easy to use, fun to use, faster to win than ever before. So download the BetParx app today. You need to be over 21 and present in Pennsylvania. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. And Conquerville Subaru. Great time to go check out Conquerville Subaru certified pre-owned inventory and a list of incoming vehicles. Check out their dealership, all the great work in the community service department where you get a free car wash with every visit. And check out ConquervilleSubaru.com. See all the info there, or swing down to Route 202 in Glen Mills and visit the beautiful dealership. Make sure you tell them that I told you to swing by and say hello. And remember that Concordville cares. All right, we'll be back Friday. Adam Kimmelman from NHL.com will be our guest on Friday on episode 11 of BetParx Presents Stick to Hockey Live. So everybody, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Leave us a 5-star rating and review. Subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. And we shall talk to you coming up this Friday on BetParx Presents Stick to Hockey Live. Have a great day, everybody.